Welcome to Local 4 Live, everybody. I'm Nick Monticelli. With just days left to avoid a government shutdown, Democrats are pushing back on DHS funding after the Alex Prady shooting. We'll take a look at lawmakers' views and the prospects for a deal. Also, cold temperatures and snow are on the way again, along with gray skies that can trigger seasonal depression. A clinical psychologist is going to share how you can cope. And with the frigid weather, a big issue that pops up: water main breaks. We're going to talk infrastructure to avoid breaks in the future.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
All my clothes, I was doing laundry. The rest of that is trash. I was waiting on Buck Day to take that out. But these are all my kids' clothes, they school clothes, my clothes.
It happened at least 3 or 4 times since I've been here, the 20 years that I've been here. And every summer, this block floods. So the infrastructure is not that strong at all.
Well, you can hear the pain and frustration in those voices. Yesterday alone, the city of Detroit had 51 water main breaks. Just a few examples you can see here: streets flooded and cars stuck in ice over on Barlow near 8 Mile and Groesbeck on the city's east side. Also on Lang Street in Britain. The city says it's an all hands on deck situation now. They're increasing crews and shifting staff from other departments to try to get all of this fixed. Now, to talk about the response and what people could do to protect their homes and really the infrastructure as well, Sam Smalley is here. He is the Deputy Director of the Detroit Water and Sewerage Department. Let's start there with my first question. Why do we call it the Sewerage Department?
Sewer is the effluent. Sewerage is the act of dealing with that element and responsibly conveying it to treatment.
Okay, so there's actually a reason. Okay, so looking at these water main breaks, 51 of them yesterday, this is not an issue of not taking care of the pipes. This is an issue of just infrastructure that is aging so far past, and this is what happens, right?
And extreme temperatures, even newer assets dealing with this kind of delta in temperatures and frigidity can experience failures.
Okay. Can you kind of walk us through how a failure might happen? Because we were talking about it this morning, and in my mind, and I know I'm not a scientist in any way, I don't have the expertise here, but we tell homeowners, trickle your water, so there's still some kind of flow there, so the water can't freeze and doesn't expand. How does that work in a water main? Because I'm assuming that water is always moving, right?
Yes. Failure mechanism between a household plumbing and the water main is very much different.
Okay.
For the water mains in the streets, it's about thermal expansion and contraction. It's about the frost line. It's about movement. That's what causes the water main breaks in the streets.
Oh.
For the house, it's the freezing of the service line where the water meter is located down in the basement. If there's a lack of heat, if that freezes, that frozen ice will start to expand in that pipe and cause a burst.
Yeah. So when you see temperatures the way they are and will continue for the next week or so, what starts to go through your mind of the department, knowing that you're going to have breaks like this?
First of all, it's the men and women out there. They're in, sub-zero temperatures. Not only is it cold, but they're getting wet while they do the work. So we want to certainly appreciate the men and women of DWSD, General Services Department, DPW, and Great Lakes Water Authority. They're all pitching in to help us, as well as our Detroit-based contractors. We've significantly increased the number of crews that are fixing water main breaks. We have 11 crews out this morning doing just that. We have 8 crews doing nothing but cleaning the streets of snow and ice for residents that are impacted.
Yeah, which I think is something people don't realize, is that when you have the water main break, especially in temperatures like this, you're going to have to just clear the area before you can even start to work on it, right?
These temperatures make everything more difficult. Getting out of the truck, getting your tools, trying to find it, trying to clear the snow and ice, the actual work itself, everything's more difficult, but our men and women are getting it done.
What's the process like to find the break? Because we can see where it's flowing, but that usually isn't where the break is, right?
Right. Typically what we'll do is we'll drill some holes over the top of the main, and then we have some listening devices. And as that sound gets louder, you're getting closer to the actual break itself.
Right. Okay, so for homeowners, and you saw the one woman there who was upset about her laundry. That's a common occurrence when there's a water main break in a neighborhood. What can a homeowner do when something like that happens, or what should they do?
Well, first of all, there has to be a source of heat in the house to protect their plumbing. That's very critical to prevent plumbing issues. For water main breaks in the street, please give us a call, 313-267-8000, or you can use the Improve Detroit app. Don't assume that somebody else has already called it in. I can't tell you, 20, 30 times a day, we get an issue from either the police or fire department, and nobody has called it in to us yet.
Oh.
And people are wondering why no one's showing up. Well, you gotta let us know.
You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
Right? I do want to talk some numbers here. A statewide report shows, we can put up the information there, that in 2023, the 5,800 miles of drinking water lines, about 66% were in good condition, 17% were in poor or very poor condition. Now, this is state numbers, so it could change a little bit here locally. We also, though, found some data from February of 2019. That's important because that's when we were seeing extremely cold temperatures like we're seeing right now again. Those numbers, there were 232 water main breaks. The usual average for the month is 165. That's, though, statewide. So when we look at 51 just in a day, in one day yesterday in the city of Detroit, we're obviously we're trending in a higher direction. So the infrastructure, I think, is the larger conversation here. I know you talked about how brand new pipes can still freeze with temperatures like this, but the infrastructure, how do we address that? Which I know you could probably talk about for 6 hours.
I could. Our capital investment is about $100 million a year for the Detroit Water and Sewerage water assets.
It probably doesn't touch it, does it?
It could be a lot more. But we have a comprehensive asset management program where we're going neighborhood by neighborhood, doing comprehensive inspection and assessment, acoustical leak detection, gathering all kinds of data, and we replace those mains that need it most to lower the overall risk. And frankly, I think that it's bearing fruit because I've been here since 2007, and in 2009, the number of breaks was significantly higher, a factor of 10. So we're looking at the data to make sure that we're picking the right ones, but I think it is having a positive effect in lowering the number of breaks overall.
Can you estimate how many lines need to be replaced or repaired at this point?
The average age of our water assets is 95 years old. Some of the older stuff is actually very robust. There's a transmission main that was installed in 1854 that's still in service.
Really?
And it hasn't broke, ever. So they used to make them very thick and very robust. It's actually the stuff that was installed in 1922 and afterwards that actually the quality went down and we're having more failure rates. So we look at all of that data as part of our asset management program when we're selecting mains to replace.
Gotcha. So we're thinking 30, 40% of the system, it needs to be repaired?
We've probably replaced about 30% already.
Okay.
If we could get another 30% out of the way, I think it would have a significant positive benefit.
Gotcha. My last question for you, in terms of preventing breaks like we're seeing yesterday, and I'm sure probably today, there really is nothing that can be done, or is there any preventative things?
There's no valves we can turn, pumps we can turn on or off. It's a very passive water distribution system. It's very robust, very redundant. So luckily people aren't out of water. If somebody is out of water, let us know. That's our highest priority, getting people back in. But there's nothing that we can physically do to help mitigate other than maintain the system and repair it.
Gotcha. Okay. I said last question. I lied to you. I apologize. For those who did experience an issue yesterday or will, if they didn't lose water, do they have to boil it and things like that?
We maintain positive pressure throughout the leak. So there is not a boil water alert. We are flushing the main. We are cleaning it. We are making sure that we're following all sanitary steps.
Yeah, okay. Sam, thank you very much for your time, and thanks to your crews. I know they are busting their butts out there in temperatures that I cannot imagine what that's like.
Thank you to Channel 4 for this opportunity.
Yeah, of course. Okay, let's get to your headlines here on your Wednesday. A live look now at Wayne State University. A shelter-in-place order has been lifted after shots were fired at the Chatsworth Suites. The school says 2 people got into a fight and shots were fired in a dorm. They both left the building. It's unclear if anybody was actually hurt or if there have been any arrests. The school has not said whether the people involved are actually students or not. Dale Warner is back in court for day 2 of jury selection. He's accused of killing his wife Dee in 2021 and hiding her body in an ammonia tank on his property. Warner rejected a last-minute plea deal that would have reduced that charge to second-degree murder. Jury selection resumes this morning, and the trial could last up to 8 weeks. More than 700 potential jury members were summoned in Lenawee County for this trial. Well, today marks one of the final steps before a Pontiac mother faces trial for allegedly leaving her kids in filthy conditions. Kelly Bryant's 3 kids were found living alone last year in horrible circumstances. She is scheduled for a pretrial hearing on child abuse charges. Last month, Bryant pleaded no contest to stealing nearly $30,000 in benefits meant for her kids. Now to Oakland County, where the wife of one of the fake DTE workers linked to the murder of a Rochester Hills businessman is expected to face a judge today for her alleged role in helping them. Prosecutors say they have dozens of text messages to prove Amanda Hernandez helped her husband plan and cover up the murder. Oakland County prosecutors now pointing to these nearly 100 text messages back and forth, now charging 24-year-old Amanda Hernandez with conspiracy to commit first-degree home invasion, accessory after the fact, and conspiracy to commit false impersonation of a utility worker. Amanda is the wife of Carlos Hernandez, who has already been sentenced to life along with Joshua Zuazu for the murder of Hussein Murray of Rochester Hills.
We're DTE. We're checking for gas leaks.
In October of 2024, prosecutors say the 2 men pretended to be DTE workers, then tied up Murray's wife with duct tape.
I said that all we have in the house is what I have in my purse and what my husband has in his pocket.
Then they allegedly killed the jewelry store owner in the basement.
That's Amanda to Mr. Hernandez. States, remember what I said. Seem weird. GTFO.
During the men's trial last year, police reading dozens of texts between Carlos and Amanda, like the badges were delivered and wear a mask when you get close. Prosecutors say after the killing, Amanda then sent a link to a news story to Carlos saying, "We need to leave," and sweating, "Where you at?" And later, Amanda allegedly asking, "Think it will blow over?" and "I don't think anybody will tell that it's you." Well, Amanda Hernandez is expected to be arraigned at 11 o'clock this morning. If convicted, she faces up to 20 years in prison. We do have a full breakdown of all those texts between her and her husband on our website at clickondetroit.com. And Macomb County Mayor is urging his city to limit police involvement in immigration enforcement, but his request is facing pushback and raised some concerns from other community members. Taking you live to Minneapolis now, where we are learning about new details over the shooting of Alex Preddy. The Department of Homeland Security says 2 officers fired their weapons after another agent alerted them Preddy had a gun. The department confirms Preddy was carrying a handgun and magazines. President Trump has ordered a full investigation into the shooting and appointed border czar Tom Homan to oversee immigration enforcement in that city. And now to the controversy unfolding in Sterling Heights. Mayor Michael Taylor is criticizing the White House's immigration crackdown, saying ICE agents are terrorizing communities. He wants changes in how city police work with federal authorities and how they handle traffic stops involving undocumented immigrants. But not every city council member agrees with his proposals. Noel Friel is sharing what's being said.
At a city council meeting, Sterling Heights Mayor Michael Taylor didn't mince words as he urged council members to restrict police cooperation with ICE agents. It comes after a traffic stop where Taylor says a police officer held a group of passengers so they could be detained by ICE.
It's not good enough to me that we would turn over anybody who is not a criminal, who is just peacefully existing here in our city, to those monsters.
In an impassioned call to action, Taylor described a traffic stop on January 9th where 4 people were pulled over. He said the driver gave a foreign ID and the officer discovered Border Patrol had a warrant out for his arrest. He said the officer then asked the other passengers for their IDs, which they legally didn't have to give, and held them until federal agents could detain them.
There was a passenger in that truck who was asked for his ID. He's already been deported and he leaves a wife and a 2-year-old. If our officers informed him of his constitutional rights, he would be here with his family.
Some council members say they share the mayor's concerns.
I'm very hesitant to cooperate in any way with border enforcement. Now, we've not changed any policy. Right now, the only cooperation we give is if you have a federal warrant, we will hand you over, signed by a judge.
Taylor said he'd also like to pause partnerships where officers are sent to work with federal agencies like the FBI or DEA, a move not all council members are on board with.
I do not support separating from our federal partners. I want to continue that work and make sure that we continue to keep our community safe.
In a statement, the city said in part, quote, "Our policy has recently been clarified to re-emphasize that if a driver is arrested and or held for an outstanding warrant from another agency as a result of a traffic stop, passengers that are not involved in any criminal activity and do not have an arrest warrant, regardless of immigration status, are not held by the Sterling Heights Police Department longer than the time necessary to complete the traffic stop."
That statement released by the city goes on to say Sterling Heights police don't participate in immigration enforcement and are solely focused on crime impacting the local community. We have the city's full response in this story at clickondetroit.com. Noelle Friel, Local 4.
All right, Noelle, thank you. Meanwhile, Ann Arbor's mayor says the city will not cooperate with ICE. Mayor Christopher Taylor took to social media saying ICE agents are being sent to cities to spread fear and intimidate. Ann Arbor is now considering banning ICE agents from city-owned properties. Washtenaw County has already passed a similar ban for county properties, except when there is a signed warrant. We'll keep the hand warmers, gloves, scarves, and bulky jackets handy. This cold weather is not going away, and it's going to get worse. Ashley is tracking the coldest days coming up. Plus, we're heading to Sault Ste. Marie for what happened on this day in history 125 years ago. Welcome back, everybody. A live look at Sault Ste. Marie right now. When this day back in 1898, the City Council set its very first speed limit. This was during a time when horse-drawn carriages and the early motor vehicles shared the streets, and there's some tensions about traffic safety between the council and the local media, and I'm assuming drivers and those with the horses. The speed limit came before the first statewide speed limit laws in 1901. And get this, the speed limit they chose, 6 miles per hour. Boy, that's a really slow car, isn't it? All right, Ashley Barassi is here. I looked at the forecast. I know Friday's a problem, I know. But I was looking for it. I'm like, okay, when can I do something outside? I can't. Like, you can't go, I look 10 days ahead, there's nothing.
I love it. That really is the problem. I think that's why so many of us feel like we're just stuck in this rut, because usually you get the snow and you're like, okay, well, I can sled and I can snowmobile and do these fun things. And then you pair it with the extreme cold, and then folks are just like, okay, enough's enough, because you can't enjoy winter.
No, I'm stuck inside with you people.
Oh, wow. Can we get some sound effect for that one? That wasn't very nice. No.
Talking about my kids.
Oh, well, then that's understandable. Yeah, so that's absolutely understandable. But yeah, kids could potentially be stuck at home with you come Friday if they don't have their school. Yeah, so schools could be closed come Friday. We'll talk more about that in a second. Here is a live look at Metro Airport, where it kind of just seems hazy out there. And that's been the theme throughout the morning, where we've had very fine snow falling in some spots. And so a little snowy out there. And you could get a few more bursts this afternoon with some lake effect bands. And that might reduce not just visibility, but create a few slick spots on the roads. But temperature wise, anywhere from about 5 to 10. That's what your car thermometer will read as your actual air temperature. But southwesterly winds are about 5 to 15 miles per hour, so enough to factor into wind chills, but not nearly as strong as yesterday, where it was pretty brisk and those winds were sustained upward of 20 miles per hour. So wind chills right now are in the negative single digits as opposed to double digits. It's so bad when we're like rejoicing about this, right? So 6 below at Metro Airport for the feels like temperature at this hour, 3 below out in Ann Arbor and up towards Pontiac, and it's cold. So we could get a dusting to about a half an inch today with those bands that set up later this afternoon. But otherwise, our laser focus is on the cold. Wind chills 15 below zero overnight into tomorrow morning. We could have 20 below zero wind chills by Friday morning with sub-zero air temperatures. Friday is setting up to be the coldest day, not even factoring in those winds. So a few flurries today, topping out around 14. As far as the timeline of that, I think after about 3 or so is when you start to see some of those bands form coming out of the west, and we'll have a couple kind of scattered snow showers around the area as kids are getting out of school, and then we peel back those clouds later on tonight. So that allows those air temperatures to drop below zero by tomorrow morning, 1 below. 7 below without a wind chill by Friday morning, and then a little more seasonal by the middle of next week, but that means we end January on a very cold below average note. So the wind chills for today, if we're lucky, we get in those low single digits for feels like temperatures, but by tomorrow morning, about 15 to maybe 20 below zero in some spots to our north, and then 15 to upward of 20 below zero in some spots by Friday morning, and we stay below zero all day long. So I feel like that's going to be taken into account with school closures, because even the walk home from school will be really bitterly cold. We're tracking the cold today. We take that into tomorrow, and that impacts a good portion of at least the northern half of the U.S. And then that polar vortex weakens a bit, but still for the Great Lakes, bitterly cold come Friday. But freezing temperatures down south from Texas to Florida, they're dealing with it too. Iguanas falling out of trees, all that kind of crazy stuff that happens down by the Gulf. But yeah, today and tomorrow they could have freezing temperatures. And then the eastern seaboard could get walloped with a winter storm as we head into the weekend from the Carolinas all the way up towards the New England region. We dodged that, but nonetheless, if you do have travel plans, you want to keep a close eye on that. So we've issued a forewarned weather alert for Friday. Dangerous cold once again. But 20s will feel balmy, even though that's 10 degrees below average. I mean, that's a big improvement from where we've been over the last couple of weeks.
Okay, 21 it is. That's the peak day.
Woohoo!
Thanks, Ash. Well, winter weather hitting hard, as you know, but it could also be bringing down your mood. Next, a clinical psychologist is talking about how you can identify the warning signs and find ways to cope and know when it's time to get professional support for seasonal affective disorder. I'm Nick Monticelli with a Local 4 News update. We are working to learn more about shots fired at a Wayne State University dorm room. The university says 2 people got into a fight. Shots were fired at the Chatsworth Suites last night. We don't know if anybody actually got hurt or arrested, but Wayne State does not believe there is a threat on campus. Why don't you make the switch over to Local 4 Plus right now? It's hard not to feel the winter blues with all the cold we've had, and that can really affect your mood. A clinical psychologist is showing us the warning signs of seasonal affective disorder and some ways you can actually cope. Also, Michigan State, the Spartans, they are going all in on AI. There's a big push to incorporate artificial intelligence into all majors and courses. The premise being today's students will retire from jobs that don't even exist yet. We're going to talk to the co-chair of the Green and White Council. That's coming up on Local 4 Live.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Welcome back to Local 4 Live, everybody. I'm Nick Monticelli. The big topic of the day, of course, cold weather. Let's take a live look over Mount Clemens, where it's currently, well, it feels like 1 degree. The cold temps continuing throughout that week. As we take a live look in Boston, where the East Coast is still digging out after all the snow, but more is on the way because of a bomb cyclone. Reed Binion has more.
I tried to pick one up, put them on the ice. It would just break and keep falling in.
Tragedy in Texas. 3 brothers ages 6, 8, and 9 dead after falling through the ice on a private pond north of Dallas. Dozens of storm and cold-related deaths have been reported across several states. Meanwhile, the frigid blast continues to wreak havoc on the roads, many still slick with ice. Air travel also impacted, with flight cancellations rising sharply Tuesday. Travel disruptions also extended to the waterways. In New York City, ferry service was suspended due to ice conditions, a disruption likely to last several days. Electrical outages also lingering. According to tracking website poweroutage.us, more than 500,000 electric customers were still in the dark as of Tuesday afternoon. Amid the fallout, there were also many brave rescues, including one in the Washington, D.C. area.
How are we going to get them out?
where crews saved a young boy from a storm drain.
We looked at trying to physically remove the grate. That was also frozen solid. When the kid came out of the hole, he was smiling and laughing.
It's a great feeling for everyone.
The Arctic blast will likely be followed by even more severe weather, with forecasters predicting what they call a bomb cyclone off the East Coast this weekend. I'm Reed Binion reporting.
All right. What's a bomb cyclone?
Well, an extreme drop in pressure that, we often talk about low pressure systems and how those create, the inclement weather. And that's like an extreme version of that. So that's what we're talking about with that. But yeah, I mean, we've had quite the winter so far. And so, yeah, I'm here to kind of dive into the details of that because.
Right. Which we're only halfway through, even halfway at this point?
Well, meteorologically speaking, December, January, February are how we measure winter. It's just easier to keep records that way.
Yeah.
So with that, we're more than halfway through. But if you're looking at your calendar as far as, the...
When it starts to feel like spring.
Right, like the spring, equinox, summer solstice, all that. Yeah, we're not quite halfway there, but here we are. It has been a snowier winter. It's been a colder winter. So if you've been feeling that way, you're not wrong. Last year at this point, and so from December 1st through January 27th, we had just over a foot of snow total, not necessarily at the surface as far as depth, but we had picked up just over a foot of snow from multiple snowstorms. But this year we have over 27.5 inches. So we've not only more than doubled it, but if you include fall, because we had a couple snows in November, really the overall total for this, whole year would be 33.5 inches. I mean, we've had a ton of snow, and it's probably more noticeable too because it's just not going anywhere with the extreme cold. You usually get that snow after a few days, it starts to melt, and that hasn't been the case. Now, what would be normal? Well, just over 21 inches, meaning that we are about 6.5 inches above average for the year thus far. And right now we don't have any big snow makers in our forecast, but the cold is sticking around. So our high temperatures here, you can look at the calendar where we did have about a week-and-a-half stretch in the earlier part of the month where we were above average, and then just the bottom fell out, and we have spent the last pretty much 2 weeks below average, and we'll round out the month below average as highs will only be in the teens. I think by Friday, we're lucky if we get to 10 for a high, and we'll take those below average conditions into February. So it has been a pretty brutal winter. Some folks love that it's like actually winter because sometimes it feels like we skip over it. But we were just talking about this, within the last half hour, Nick, that it kind of stinks, though, when you can't get out and enjoy it because it's so cold. Yeah. So, yeah, I think, people don't mind the snow as much as they do the really cold temperatures.
Which, we have a segment coming up about seasonal affective disorder, and it makes a whole lot of sense, especially when you are trapped and can't go outside or shouldn't be going outside.
Right.
I mean, it's one thing to be dealing with the temperatures and the snow, but when you shouldn't be going outside and you are stuck in your home for days or weeks, it becomes a problem.
And then you pair it with what I call the perma-gray, the cloud cover that just sticks around nonstop.
No sunshine.
Yeah, that's really difficult to deal with.
All right, thanks, Ash. Okay, so as we were talking about, the jury weather is showing winter all over the place. If you're out in the cold, you might love winter, but for many, it brings seasonal affective disorder or SAD, which feels like depression. The good news, there are some ways to boost your mood. Rhonda Walker talked with Dr. Rose Moten, a psychologist and life coach in Detroit, about coping and when you should seek some help.
So when do the winter blahs get diagnosed as seasonal affective disorder?
Yeah, so, oftentimes you don't even need to get a diagnosis because most of us in the Northern Hemisphere experience some degree of seasonal affective disorder.
The dull, cold winter season with fewer hours of daylight and less sunlight bring on feelings of the winter blues.
The light is something that acts on just the chemicals in our brains, and it really helps to increase our mood and, the neurotransmitters to increase the serotonin in our brain. And so when you have less light, it just has that effect on you. Those who already suffer with depression or maybe anxiety disorder, the diagnosis comes because you start to see an increase in those symptoms.
So let's run down some of the symptoms that we should look out for.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say their sleep patterns are off. Irritability, oftentimes craving more carbs, because that's the sugar and the carbs give us that false sense of like, okay, I have some energy, because there's less energy that you have during the winter time. You notice, that you are isolating yourself maybe more, or
maybe just you don't feel like going out, it's hard to get out of bed.
You don't feel like going out, you're not socializing.
Are there things or steps that we take that could make it even worse?
Yeah, like increased alcohol consumption. If you find yourself drinking more and more, you're going to actually make that
yourself feel worse.
Yeah.
When do the symptoms trigger maybe a call to a doctor to get help?
For a prolonged sense of time, you're just not feeling like yourself. So
Just
if it's going a
can't pull it
couple of weeks
together.
and it's just like maybe you are more emotional, you're tearful, you're not eating, or you're overeating.
What are some kinds of things that you would do in a session with a client?
Give them some coping strategies that they can start to initiate in their lives. Meditation is huge. You know, with my center, Bloom, we do meditation classes that can really help to boost the mood as well.
Dr. Rose Moten also recommends using this time to replenish and look ahead.
This is a great time for us to replenish ourselves, maybe have more community inside of your home. Spring is coming, summer is coming. It's important to have things to look forward to. I know in 6 weeks I'm going to be on the beach. Can be a great mood booster for anyone.
I like to go ice skating. Ice skating with my daddy.
Just out here skating with my daughters, bro, having a good time.
Along with pushing yourself to socialize and create winter hobbies in and outdoors.
Sledding, tobogganing, skiing, baking, you know, that could be a hobby. Even younger people are getting involved with knitting.
Exercise and keeping a routine helps too.
A routine is very important. Getting up and going for a morning walk, even if the sun is not out, you know, you're still going to have some sun rays. Our wellness is not seasonal, so our self-care should not be either.
So are there ways we can trick our bodies with, you know, alternatives to try and get daylight?
Just really encourage so many of my clients to get sun lamps. This actually mimics sun rays and it tricks your brain into thinking it's sunlight. Literally, you can plug it up and sit it next to you when you're working.
Is there ever a time when it's like, yeah, maybe you should, you know, consider a relocation?
Yeah, if you see that it's really impacting the quality of your life, that is something to truly consider.
And that's when you seek professional help.
That's when you
as well.
seek professional help or a realtor.
And that was Rhonda Walker with Dr. Moten. And Dr. Moten was recommending trying to bring as much daylight into your workspace and home as possible. Open up all the blinds and curtains. If you're contemplating a move, make sure you factor that in as a priority, even if it's just across town. And more windows will allow you to more daylight, and that definitely helps with getting through the winter doldrums. All right, tensions are growing on Capitol Hill over the situation in Minneapolis. Next, we're going to break down the calls to fire the Secretary of Homeland Security and the incident that happened during a congressional town hall. And we do have some breaking news here on Local 4 Live. A massive fire you can see there at a home that is on Fullerton near the Davison and Livernois. Our photographer just zoomed out. If we can start to zoom in a little bit further and give you a better perspective of what's happening there. We heard over scanners that there may be some people trapped inside that home. Nothing confirmed though, so we're going to work with the fire department to see what's going on there. But you can see that home will be destroyed by that fire, consuming both the upper level, as you can see, and the bottom level as our photographer starts to pan down. And you can see almost directly through that home, meaning it has been burning for quite some time and there's nothing left. In fact, as you can see, parts of the ceiling and the structure of the home caving in on itself. This is what firefighters would call a defensive attack. Nobody inside, because by putting a firefighter in there, it would jeopardize their lives. So they're going to do everything they can to battle that fire from the outside of the home. You can see those firefighters working on the left side of the home there. What they're doing there is trying to prevent the fire from spreading to the homes next door. I can't tell you exactly how close those homes are, but by looking and kind of averaging in the normal Detroit neighborhoods, that house is probably 10 to 15 feet away, maybe 20 feet away. So a fire, especially in a windy condition, can jump very easily from one home to the next. So they're going to do everything they can to keep firefighters on both sides of that home and keeping water on it, making sure those flames don't jump across. They can protect the homes next to it. But you can see there that home destroyed by fire, and we will work with the Detroit Fire Department and Police Department to get information on if anybody was hurt in this fire, if anybody was home when all this happened. But again, as I mentioned, we did hear over scanners that people may have been trapped, but a lot of times what you hear on these scanners doesn't turn out to be true. So we'll wait to get confirmed information from DFD. But again, as that fire rages live in front of you, that house is a loss. All right, let's take a live look at Capitol Hill right now, where a political firestorm is erupting over who's running the Department of Homeland Security. 2 Republican senators are now breaking ranks and demanding big changes at DHS, wanting Secretary Kristi Noem out as the fallout from Minneapolis keeps getting worse. Alaska's Lisa Murkowski did not mince words when asked about Secretary Kristi Noem's handling of Minneapolis. Neither did North Carolina Congressman Thom Tillis.
I have said that I've lost confidence in her. Do you think that President Trump should remove her from the position? Do you think she should resign? That's obviously up to the president. But I think we would be better served with new leadership at the department. And if she doesn't leave on her own volition, or if the president doesn't fire her from the position, would you support something like impeachment? I have expressed my lack of confidence in her, and my voice is out there, and we'll see what happens. And one more question: is it just the review? Is this just because of how she handled the Alex Preddy shooting, or do you think that it's a greater? I think that there are, as I mentioned, just that reporter there. I think that there are other issues. I supported her nomination. I had great hopes for her in the department, and I've been disappointed.
I think if Noem looks at her body of work, I could not be. If I were in her position, I can't think of any point of pride over the last year. She's got to make her own decision, or the president does, but she has taken this administration into the ground on an issue that we should own. We should own the issue of border security and immigration, but they have destroyed that for Republicans. Something that got the president elected, they have destroyed it through their incompetence.
Now, meantime, other Republican lawmakers and the president are sharing their confidence with Secretary Noem.
Do you have full confidence in Secretary Noem?
Yeah, I think she's working her butt off. My goal is that you give people all the information. I mean, I think the most important thing is Americans want to have all the facts, and they can make good decisions, and they want to make sure that there's a thorough, independent investigation, and that's what has to happen.
Is Kristi Noem going to step down?
No, I think she's doing a very good job. The border is totally secure. You know, you forget. We had a border that I inherited where millions of people were coming through. Now we have a border where no one is coming through.
Meantime, during a town hall meeting with Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, a man rushed towards her and sprayed an unknown substance.
Resign or face impeachment?
As you can see in the video here, her security team, along with police there, took that suspect down, and now he's facing federal assault charges. But as for Omar, Against the wishes of her team, she finished that town hall meeting.
I think, what has been the most important piece for all of us is, one, to remain united. Two, not to just feel grateful for those who are out there, but to feel grateful for everyone who is out there, because Minnesotans are showing up for one another in ways that people didn't expect, and we are showing the country and the world what real solidarity looks like.
All right, back to Washington now, where that situation in Minneapolis is having Democrats digging in their heels over DHS funding, which could lead to another possible government shutdown.
In the wake of ICE's abuses and the administration's recklessness, the Senate must not pass the DHS budget as currently written and must be reworked to rein in and overhaul ICE to ensure the public's safety. The fix should come from Congress. The public can't trust the administration to do the right thing on its own.
Take up DHS by itself. Let's have an honest negotiation, put some guardrails on what's going on, some accountability, and that would solve this problem. We don't have to have a shutdown.
Congress has until midnight on Friday to work out a deal, or the U.S. will be facing another shutdown. Democrats want to strip DHS funding from this bill, but that requires kicking it back to the House for approval, and they're on recess this week with no plans to return before the deadline. We'll keep you updated as this budget battle heats up. Well, it is a little tiny bit warmer today. It's not going to stick around though. Ashley will have your frigid forecast in just a minute. Plus, you have a chance to become an international traveler, and all you have to do is walk across a lake, not the Detroit River. I'll explain when we come back. Taking a live look at Drummond Island right now, where winter lovers up there very, very happy. The International Ice Bridge is now open. It connects the island here in the UP with St. Joseph Island in Ontario. It is a 12-mile ice path across Lake Huron and welcomes snowmobiles, fat tire bikes, dog sleds, and skiers. The bridge is open when weather conditions are safe. There are border checks, though, so make sure you are prepared to cross the border. Ashley Barrissey now. I guess one of the positive things about the forecast is that it's probably going to stay safe for quite some time.
Right, yeah, because it's so cold. Oh man, I know, but I just had someone message me on Instagram and they were like, make it stop, make it stop. And I'm like, I feel you.
Right. You can't just go on your computer and change the temperatures, is that how it works?
I know, my kids at one point did think that I made the weather. Yeah, I mean, they're little, preschool and lower elementary school. I was like, yeah, mommy doesn't make the weather.
Mommy, why do you like the rain?
No, it'd be like San Diego every day around here. Yeah, mommy made the weather, but here we go. So I do love the Four Seasons, just not when we're in the deep freeze. And here here, it even looks like we're in the deep freeze as you take that live look at Metro Airport. And so temperature check puts us anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees for that air temp. Winds have picked up a little bit since we first joined you at 4:30 this morning, but still not as strong as yesterday. About 5 to 15 miles per hour. It's just enough to make those wind chill readings feel like we are below zero. So averaging it out, probably closer to about 4 or 5 below across much of southeastern Michigan. And then we have a chance for a few more flurries today. Today's a very similar setup as to what we saw yesterday, where you could get a little peak of sunshine and then you're like, ooh, you're hopeful. And then all of a sudden the clouds roll back in, you get that burst of snow. And so dusting to a 1/2 of an inch is what we could experience today as some banding starts to form, become a little more organized this afternoon. But the chills are sticking with us. A chilly forecast indeed. Wind chills 15 below zero in spots tomorrow morning, and then sub-zero air temps Friday morning with nearly 20 below zero wind chill readings. Oh, man, January's been brutal. Few flurries this afternoon will mainly be between, I would say, about 3 and 7 p.m. It'll affect the afternoon commute with some reduced visibility in some spots, but low teens for highs, which actually means that we're colder air temperature wise today. It's just the wind chills are not quite as cold, but we start to feel that build back in. So here's the scattered flurries that we anticipate later on this afternoon. It's not a widespread event by any means. A bit of a clearing overnight, which is not what we want timing wise, because it's like taking the blanket off while you sleep. So those temperatures will tumble possibly even below zero by tomorrow morning. 1 below is what we're forecasting for the overnight low. 7 below by Friday. We actually have issued a forewarned weather alert for Friday, not just because of the temperatures dipping below zero, air temps, but also because those wind chills could be 20 below zero and puts us back in that dangerous territory. So that wind chill forecast by this afternoon, if we're lucky, we get above zero for that feels like temperature. And then tomorrow, about 15 degrees below zero for the wind chill. And fast forward to Friday, and we'll be very similar, 15 to 20 below zero. And even those sub-zero wind chills stick with us in the afternoon. I point that out because kids will be dropped off at the bus stop or walking home from school still feeling like we're below zero well into the afternoon. So we're tracking the cold. I mean, the cold's draping a good portion of the country. You see today that dips all the way down into the Gulf, so impacting everywhere from the northern plains down to the southeast. And then come Thursday, it's still going to be impacting the northeast, but it does start to weaken as far as that polar vortex. Friday just doesn't really help us out quite yet. Friday is our coldest day of the week. So we have freezing temperatures in the deep south from Texas to Florida today and tomorrow. They're not equipped with that. I mean, that even impacts your vegetation and things like that. So clouds and radar forecast. Then we have the bomb cyclone we were just talking about, that massive potential winter storm that'll brush the eastern seaboard through the weekend, and that could bring measurable snow from the Carolinas all the way up into the New England region. Forewarned weather alert for us come Friday due to dangerously cold temperatures. We do welcome back 20s next week, still below average, but a little bit of an improvement from where we have been.
And I'm looking at Tuesday, 25 degrees. All right.
No, kids will be, wearing the shorts again.
Flip-flop weather.
Yeah.
If you want to keep your toes, though, don't do that.
Exactly.
Thanks, Ash. Let's take a live look at Ann Holt's Biathlon Arena in Italy. There it is right there. That's where the biathlon competitions will be happening during the Winter Olympics. And we're getting a look at how a New Hampshire native, Sean Doherty, is getting ready for his 4th Olympic Games at just 30 years old. Ellie Rosenberg shows us Sean Doherty's road to Milan did not follow the typical Olympic path.
Sean Doherty is curious by nature.
Set and go.
From taking up biathlon, to diving into the world of wood turning, to joining the U.S. Army, he has crammed a lot into his 30 years.
I had a lot of very good role models and very stoic New England characters, in my youth who mentored me and I think at least helped shape me into the competitor that I am today.
A competitor headed to his 4th Olympic Games. The Conway, New Hampshire native who loves to try new things says he isn't one of these top Olympians who dreamed of the Games from a young age. The commitment was there.
Good job, Sean.
His dad spending hours driving him from their Conway home to the Vermont Army National Guard training site in Jericho. His mom helping him with his studies as the sport started requiring more and more of a time commitment. And along the way, his journey, his talent, made the pinnacle of winter sports a natural next step.
Neither of my parents came from the background of Olympic sport or anything like that. So when I was young, we were very much learning together. And that was a really beautiful process for all of us.
and his family remains close. If he isn't training, you might find Sean fishing with his brother or making flies for the sport that the brothers sell online. And then there is this, wood turning. Introduced to it by a family friend, Sean poured the same intensity from biathlon into this, with incredible results, as you can see here and here.
It allows me to find a very calm and different headspace from training, competing, traveling, you know, kind of the high pace of a lot of what we do. And it's very free-form.
Biathlon and this intense training remains a top priority, as we saw firsthand on the back roads of Jay Peak in northern Vermont. Sean is putting in the work, the effort, the time and dedication to give these Olympics his best shot.
I think Milan is going to be really special because it is in the heart of true winter sports culture. And I think the atmosphere at these competitions is going to be pretty special. It would be an honor to race.
By the way, Doherty's teammate Deidre Irwin is also getting ready for the game. She is a Wisconsin native, but went to Michigan Tech. And our Ty Steele is soon making his way to Italy for those Winter Games. He's going to be following our local athletes, and those reports are going to be starting on February 6th. Another hour of your favorite show, Local 4 Live, is heading your way. Michigan State University is going all in on AI, pushing to incorporate it into all majors and courses. And then saffron is trending on social media, claiming to boost mood and ease anxiety. We're going to break down what the science says and which supplements might be risky. And finally, we'll talk about the challenge of canceling subscriptions and the new congressional push to make it easier, alongside some Senate measures. More news, more weather in another hour with Local 4 Live here on Local 4 Plus. Stay with us. A lot to talk about in the next hour of Local 4 Live here as we stream on Local 4 Plus. You're looking live in Detroit, where the city is dealing with the aftermath of more than 50 water main breaks in these frigid cold temperatures. We're taking a look at what's being done to fix all of them. And you're looking also live at the campus of Michigan State. At the center of your screen, University going all in on AI. I'm trying to say that 3 times fast. In an effort to prepare students for the jobs of the future. We're going to talk all about that. And then a lot of people have mixed feelings about NIL deals in college sports, but how about high schoolers? Now they can get paid as well. That big change for athletes coming up.
Local 4 News starts now with a breaking news alert.
We are going to start the show, though, with a live look at some breaking news we have here on Detroit's west side. This is a fire over on Sturtevant near the Davidson and Livernois. Originally, we were told this is on Fullerton, but now we know it's on Sturtevant. The fire department telling us that one person was injured in this fire. We don't know their condition, though, but they were taken to a hospital. Looking at these live pictures right now, you can see the majority of the fire is now out with white smoke showing there. Just about 20 minutes ago, we showed you a very different scene with a lot of orange flames that were destroying this home. In those pictures, you were able to see right through the home, so we know this house is destroyed. But now looking at this white smoke, we know that the majority of the fire is out and firefighters have this under control. And looking side to side, which is also good news, it looks like they were able to protect the homes right next to it on either side. So we're waiting to get more information on that one person that was injured. We'll see if they are expected to survive this fire or not. Well, welcome back here to Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. The other top story that we are following, of course, is the weather. This has been an impacting weather system that will not take its cold hands off of us. It is bitterly cold outside, but this isn't even the coldest day that we're expecting this week. Wind chills are between 5 to 15 below this morning, with the temperature only topping out in the teens. A live look at Metro Airport right now. It's 8 degrees, but feels like 6 below. And Ashley was talking about how it kind of feels hazy. It's just a little bit of snow falling right now. Not much warmer in Southfield. It's 7 degrees, but feels like 5 below. Friday is going to be even colder than today. Our team is expecting some school closures on that day. The forewarned meteorology team has issued a forewarned weather alert for that Friday. And Ashley will be here shortly to break down exactly what we can expect on that day. Now, these sub-zero temperatures are really impacting pipes in Metro Detroit. Just yesterday, the city had 51 water main breaks. Our crews were out getting video of all the issues with all the flooding and freezing all over the streets. Cars getting stuck in all that ice, including a Detroit police car. You see it right there. That had to be towed near Barlow Street and Bringard Drive. And of course, that water made it into some homes as well.
This is all my clothes. I was doing laundry. The rest of that is trash. I was waiting on Buck Day to take that out. But these are all my kids' clothes, they school clothes, my clothes.
The city says they are in an all-hands-on-deck situation. 11 crews have been dedicated to fix what's still broken today. We caught up with the Detroit Water and Sewerage Department in our last hour, and we'll have that full conversation coming up here on Local 4 Live in just a bit. Now a live look at Wayne State University. A shelter, that's actually not Wayne State, but a shelter-in-place order has been lifted in the Midtown area after shots were fired at the Chatsworth Suites. The school says 2 people got into a fight and shots were fired inside of that dorm room. They both left the building. It's unclear if anybody was actually hurt or if anyone was arrested. The school has not said whether the people involved are actually students. Well, the wife of one of the fake DTE workers linked to the murder of a Rochester Hills businessman is expected to face a judge in 2 hours for her alleged role in helping them. Oakland County prosecutors say they have dozens of text messages proving Amanda Hernandez helped her husband plan and cover up the murder. Oakland County prosecutors now pointing to these nearly 100 text messages back and forth, now charging 24-year-old Amanda Hernandez with conspiracy to commit first-degree home invasion, accessory after the fact, and conspiracy to commit false impersonation of a utility worker. Amanda is the wife of Carlos Hernandez, who has already been sentenced to life along with Joshua Zuazu for the murder of Hussein Murray of Rochester Hills.
Or DTE. We're checking for gas leaks.
In October of 2024, prosecutors say the 2 men pretended to be DTE workers, then tied up Murray's wife with duct tape.
I said that all we have in the house is what I have in my purse and what my husband has in his pocket.
Then they allegedly killed the jewelry store owner in the basement.
That's Amanda to Mr. Hernandez. States, remember what I said. Seem weird. GTFO.
During the men's trial last year, police reading dozens of texts between Carlos and Amanda, like the badges were delivered and wear a mask when you get close. Prosecutors say after the killing, Amanda then sent a link to a news story to Carlos saying, "We need to leave," and sweating, "Where you at?" And later, Amanda allegedly asking, "Think it will blow over?" and "I don't think anybody will tell that it's you." Now, Amanda Hernandez is expected to be arraigned again this morning at 11 a.m. If convicted, she's facing up to 20 years in prison. We do have a full breakdown of the text between Hernandez and her husband on our website over at clickondetroit.com. Dale Warner is back in court for day 2 of jury selection. He is accused of killing his wife, Dee, in 2021 and hiding her body inside of a tank on his property. Warner rejected a last-minute plea deal that would have reduced his charge to second-degree murder. Jury selection resumes this morning. The trial could last up to 8 weeks. More than 700 potential jury members were summoned in Lenawee County for this trial. Today marks one of the final steps before a Pontiac mother faces trial for allegedly leaving her kids in a filthy condition. Kelly Bryant's 3 children were found living alone last year in horrible circumstances. She's scheduled for a pretrial hearing on child abuse charges. Last month, she pleaded no contest to stealing nearly $30,000 in benefits meant for her kids. Well, new on this Wednesday morning, Amazon is slashing thousands of jobs to make way for AI. The tech giant announced today it will cut 16,000 jobs. Amazon says it plans to use artificial intelligence to replace corporate workers. This follows a round of job cuts in October when Amazon laid off 14,000 people. Stories like that make you realize why Michigan State is making such a big investment in artificial intelligence. You can see live here the campus in East Lansing, where the university launching new plans to prepare students for jobs that don't even exist yet. This fall, Michigan State is launching a new AI course that will be part of an almost every major, helping students learn to use AI smartly and responsibly. This initiative is funded by a $5 million grant. Along with the AI course, Michigan State is focusing on providing real-world experience, connecting research with industry to boost innovation and keep graduates in Michigan. So we're trying to understand what all this means and navigate a little bit more. We have Dr. Sanjay Gupta, the co-chair of the Green and White Council over at Michigan State. That's a group of civic and business leaders who advise students on how to best prepare students for the future, which I'm guessing, Dr. Gupta, is difficult when you don't know what the jobs of the future are.
That's exactly right, Nick. We don't know what the jobs of the future are, and that is where our challenge lies, but that is where also the great opportunity lies. How do we prepare our students? How do we get them ready for careers that do not even exist?
Yeah.
What does that mean? And that is what we are all grappling with.
You know, one of the best things that I've heard from teachers is that a lot of times they're not teaching you the answers. They're teaching you the roadmap, the pathway to get to them, which in this case sounds like what you can do is prepare students to use AI and to understand what it can and cannot do. And that probably will get them towards these jobs that we don't exist yet, but at least they're on the right road.
That's exactly right. You know, critical thinking, problem solving, these are the innate skills that we need to be able to make sure that our students get. AI is simply a tool with which the same ideas around critical thinking and problem solving become really, really important. Every business, one of our council members said, every business is a tech business now. The future is around people having digital competencies, digital skills. This has been ongoing now for a few decades, so this is not new. AI is simply accelerating this whole trend and creating a new environment within which the expectation is going to be for everybody to be competent in AI and digital skills, no matter whether their jobs is in arts and the humanities, or in communications, or in ag and natural resources, business, engineering, you take it, healthcare. You know, everyone is going to be exposed to huge amounts of data, they'll require analysis, and AI is a very important tool for the future that is going to make everybody's job easier and also relevant, for them to be able to contribute solutions to problems.
You kind of laid out the groundwork there in terms of how this is going to impact every occupation, every major there. This is quite an undertaking, though, for you to introduce courses that almost every major has to take.
Nick, the nice thing is we have already been doing this work now for a few years. I mean, as of fall of 2026, what we know currently, over 22 courses are already on the books related to AI. So this is not something that we are starting from ground zero. The faculty are already passionate and interested and involved in trying to make sure that the students are getting ready with the kind of skills needed for the future. And so this work has been ongoing. What we are just trying to do is make it much more organized from an institutional standpoint, that there is an ability for every student to have some kind of foundational knowledge. We'll make an elective course available which talks about AI in industry and how it is being utilized by industry to solve their problems. And then each student would have to be able to make sure that depending on their discipline, depending on their major, they get the requisite skills. So the idea of discipline-specific and context-rich coursework and curriculum is already being developed. And this, of course, is the faculty prerogative, within each of the colleges as to what does that mean within their college for their major to make sure that the content aligns with that discipline.
So if it's discipline-specific, then we're talking about sophomores, juniors probably taking these courses as opposed to freshmen who might look at it as like a general ed?
Yeah. So, in several of the colleges, Nick, there is already this idea of a foundational course and laddering it up with greater and greater competencies, depending on, what the student is studying. What we are trying to do is make sure that we have this available where this may not already exist, such that there is a foundational course that is available if a student does not have access to that. And then, of course, the faculty will be developing these other courses. They're already developing that. We are also thinking in terms of micro-credentials that can be stackable. These could be non-credit courses, but, allows students to dive deeper into, let's say, the applications of AI in healthcare. So that's something that they can have competencies in if that's their desire to pursue as a career path. So it's a major undertaking, but it's also an exciting time. And what I'm reminded, this is, we talk about AI as if this is something brand new, something that is extraordinarily going to change lives and so on. And I'm reminded of the cell phone, right? You can just go back to a few decades and nobody really used a smartphone. Today, it doesn't matter who we are talking about, even kids, they are using smartphones as if it's just an extension of their hands. And so this AI needs to be viewed in that same context where we think about every business being a tech business. Yeah. How will AI enable for a success?
So you talk about AI being... Sorry to cut you off there. You talk about AI being infused into a major. Do you foresee an actual major in artificial intelligence?
That would be a faculty decision. It could very well be the case that we have that. Just depends on the demand for those kinds of specialized majors or specialized degree programs. But suffice it to say that this doesn't necessarily have to be anything standalone. The important thing is it gets woven into every field of study, right? So that the idea of discipline-specific and context-rich for me resonates very strongly. Sure. And that's the kind of guiding principles that we will use.
Yeah, well, you can get a business degree with a minor in AI. I like the way you're thinking there, Doctor. All right, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, thank you very much. Thank you for your time,
It's a great pleasure, Nick. Thank you for having us.
Take care. Well, it can be very difficult to cancel your subscriptions, but wait until you hear how much the average American is spending on subscriptions they never use. And then High school athletes are now eligible to be paid while they play here in Michigan. We're going to talk about that big rule change coming up next. All right, let's talk money. You're looking live at the stock futures today as we're expecting a decision on interest rates. The Fed is expected to hold them steady when they meet this afternoon to weigh the state of the labor market and inflation. Today's meeting comes as the Fed and its chairman Jerome Powell face that criminal investigation launched by the U.S. Attorney for D.C., a close Trump ally. Powell has accused the White House of using the probe to pressure him into cutting interest rates further. We'll let you know what happens today. Michigan high school athletes now can get paid for their name, image, and likeness, NIL deals. The Michigan High School Athletic Association just approved this change, and it takes effect right away. This means that student athletes can earn money from things like social media posts, personal appearances, photo sessions, autographs, and more. This comes after the Michigan legislature proposed allowing high school athletes to use their NIL rights in 2023. But even with this new rule, athletes cannot make money from their actual sports performance, awards, or team participation. Jeff Kimberly from the MHSAA says both athletes and schools could face penalties if they don't follow the rules.
If an athlete, they have to disclose their deals, and we'll tell them this is either approved or this is something that would put your eligibility in jeopardy. So it's the opportunity to play a sport. And if we have a school that is doing things to be part of their students' NIL, which is strictly prohibited, that school's membership will be discussed. And that's not something that we just throw around lightly.
All right, you can scan this QR code right now to go straight to the story on clickondetroit.com about this new change for high school sports. You can learn more about how this will be enforced and how it puts Michigan in line with neighboring states. Two Detroit Lions players are now part of an effort to outlaw painful experiments on dogs in Michigan. House Bill 4254, known as Queenie's Law, would ban those experiments at taxpayer-funded institutions like Wayne State. The bill was introduced in October and is currently in committee. Lions tight end Brock Wright and his fiancee Carly Johnston, they sent a letter supporting Queenie's Law to State Senate Majority Leader Woody Brinks and House Speaker Matt Hall. The bill was previously endorsed by another Detroit Lion, Sam Laporta, and his wife, Callie. Clint Eastwood's daughter, Allison, sent a separate letter Monday urging action on the bill. In recent years, there's been a trend away from experiments on dogs in science, including at the National Institutes of Health and the U.S. Navy and the Texas Heart Institute. Still ahead, if you're an early riser, it turns out there is a health benefit to being a morning person. And then Ashley, speaking of morning people, is going to tell us just how cold it will get as temps drop even more here in Metro Detroit. Welcome back. Today marks a somber day in U.S. history. If you were alive when it happened, you probably remember where you were. On January 20th in 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded during liftoff. It happened 73 seconds after launching, killing all 7 crew members on board. NASA suspended its popular Space Shuttle program for nearly 3 years, investigating what went wrong. All right, as you know, it is just horrifically cold outside as you look live at Southfield and 696. The forecast, though, calls for even colder temperatures, especially on Friday, which might include more school closures. Hey, Ash.
Now, forewarned weather with Exact Track 4D.
Well, let's go ahead and get to your weather story, as we could be picking up about a dusting to a half of an inch today when it comes to a few flurries in the forecast. But even though we're out of the dangerous cold for today, don't get me wrong, it's still bitterly cold. We have the possibility of the dangerous cold making a pretty quick comeback with wind chill readings. It'll be about 15 below zero overnight tonight, and maybe even colder than 20 below zero heading into Friday morning. In fact, air temperatures fall below zero come Friday morning, not even factoring in the wind. So we can definitively say we'll be rounding out the month of January with more blue on the calendar here and wrapping up the month with more below average days than anything else. So it's been a really cold January and snowy as well. And we'll pick up a few more flurries this afternoon. A few lake effect snow bands could bring a quick burst of snow, very light minor accumulations, but very much like yesterday, you get a few breaks in the clouds and you think, hey, the sun's starting to peek out, and then boom, you get some of that snow, creates a few slick spots, and then it quickly fizzles out. And it'll be overall a colder day today than yesterday, air temperature wise. So a quick look at the snow chances as we head throughout the afternoon, 3, 4 o'clock especially. You have those scattered little flurries draping the area, fizzles out by the evening, and we do start to peel back some of those clouds. But the headline over the next couple of days will continue to be the bitter cold. By tomorrow morning, not factoring in winds, 1 below zero, air temperatures falling to 7 below zero Friday. Friday's the coldest day of the week, and I think that brings you the higher chances of school closings because those wind chills will be also factor in the mix. And then 5 below zero without a wind chill comes Saturday morning. So starting to climb out of it next week. But as we zip through your wind chill forecast this afternoon, some areas might get in the low single digits for those feels like temperatures at best, but the air temperature will be colder than what it was yesterday. Now, wind chill forecast by tomorrow morning, 15, 20 to 20 below zero, and we could be anywhere from 15 to 25 below zero in spots come Friday morning and staying sub-zero in the afternoon. So with these type of temperatures, and they only really have to be at or below 20 degrees, but we're talking well below that threshold, we have the threat for frozen pipes. Hopefully you haven't dealt with this yet, but now if you haven't done any precautions, now's the time to be doing this because it's a household hazard as that cold air can cause the pipes in the exterior walls to freeze so that water expands when frozen and the pipes burst. So you want to make sure that you are opening up your kitchen and bathroom cabinets. Some more tips for you. Consider some insulation materials for those exposed walls. But if you can't do that, you want to make sure that you are letting cold water drip through your faucets. And also, if you're going on vacation, don't leave your heat lower than 55 degrees because that will also lead to just those pipes freezing a lot quicker. Tracking the cold over the next 3 days, that Arctic air moves into the Midwest and the Northeast today. Extreme cold continues for the northern tier of the U.S. for tomorrow. That polar vortex starts to weaken a bit in the Northeast on Friday, but not for us across the Great Lakes, as that's our coldest day of the week. But I do want to draw your attention down south because maybe you have some loved ones that are snowbirds. Well, they're dealing with freezing temperatures as well. From Texas to Florida, today and tomorrow, freezing temps. That could lead to some iguanas falling from the trees. Otherwise, this weekend, if you're traveling to the eastern seaboard, we do have a close eye on a potential winter storm that could bring some accumulating snow from the Carolinas up into the New England region. Here close to home, forewarned weather alert Friday due to the extreme cold, but we're back in the 20s going into next week.
Welcome back. General Motors is making a bold prediction, saying it expects to top Ford when it comes to assembling cars in the U.S. in the coming years. As you look live at GM's new headquarters in the Hudson Building, CEO Mary Barra announced the target yesterday when reporting the automaker's 2025 earnings and outlook for the next year. GM is expecting to be hit with between $3 and $4 billion in tariff costs, but Barra says GM is hoping to produce more in the U.S., making 2 million cars here. GM also announced that UAW workers will get $10,500 in profit-sharing checks. GM says about 47,000 workers should be eligible. That's the lowest amount of money in years. Last year, workers received $14,500. We're expecting to learn how much UAW members at Ford and Stellantis will get next month. We all know how difficult it can be to cancel some of your subscriptions. Now efforts are ramping up in Congress as you look live over the D.C. area to make it easier to unsubscribe. A bipartisan House bill was just introduced to go along with the Senate measure. It would require companies that offer subscriptions to provide easy cancellations and to get customer approval before charging them after a free or reduced fee period. The Federal Trade Commission tried to implement a rule like this last year, but a federal appeals court struck that down. So each year, American adults actually spend on average just over $1,000 on subscriptions. That's according to a CNET survey. The average spent on subscriptions people no longer use is just over $200. By generation, millennials spend the most, more than $1,200. The early bird may have more than a head start on the day. New research is suggesting a healthier heart as well. A major study finds people who stay up late, so-called night owls, are more likely to have poor heart health, with the strongest effect seen in women. Researchers tracked more than 300,000 adults over 14 years. Night owls had a higher risk of heart attacks and strokes, while early risers did not. Experts say consistent quality sleep may be key to protecting your heart. Dozens of water main breaks are flooding streets and homes across Detroit. We're going to talk with city officials in charge of fixing those problems next.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Welcome back to Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. Thank you so much for watching. Now to a big issue in this frigid weather, water main breaks. Yesterday alone, the city of Detroit dealing with more than 50 water main breaks, 51 to be exact. Our crews were out in the city all day capturing these images. Streets were flooded, cars stuck in ice on Barlow near 8 Mile and Groesbeck on the city's east side. Also on Lang Street in Britain. That's just a handful of the 51 breaks that they had. The city says it's an all hands on deck situation and they're increasing crews and shifting staff from other departments to get things fixed. In the last hour, we talked to Sam Smalley. He's the Deputy Director of the Detroit Water and Sewerage Department.
Even newer assets dealing with this kind of delta in temperatures and frigidity can experience failures.
Okay. Can you kind of walk us through how a failure might happen? Because we were talking about it this morning, and in my mind, and I know I'm not a scientist in any way, or, I don't have the expertise here, but we tell homeowners, trickle your water, so there's still some kind of flow there, so the water can't freeze and doesn't expand. How does that work in a water main? Because I'm assuming that water is always moving, right?
Yes. Failure mechanism between household plumbing and the water main is very much different. Okay. For the water mains in the streets, it's about thermal expansion and contraction. It's about the frost line. It's about movement. That's what causes the water main breaks in the streets. Oh. For the house, it's the freezing of the service line where the water meter is located down in the basement if there's a lack of heat. If that freezes, that frozen ice will start to expand in that pipe and cause a burst.
Yeah. So when you see temperatures the way they are and will continue for the next week or so, what starts to go through your mind of the department knowing that you're going to have breaks like this?
First of all, it's the men and women out there. They're in, sub-zero temperatures. Not only is it cold, but they're getting wet while they do the work. So we want to certainly appreciate the men and women of DWSD, General Services Department, DPW, and Great Lakes Water Authority. They're all pitching in to help us, as well as our Detroit-based contractors. We've significantly increased the number of crews that are fixing water main breaks. We have 11 crews out this morning doing just that. We have 8 crews doing nothing but cleaning the streets of snow and ice for our residents that are impacted.
Yeah, which I think is something people don't realize, is that when you have the water main break, especially in temperatures like this, you're going to have to just clear the area before you can even start to work on it, right?
These temperatures make everything more difficult. Getting out of the truck, getting your tools, trying to find it, trying to clear the snow and ice, the actual work itself, everything's more difficult, but our men and women are getting it done.
What's the process like to find the break? Because we can see where it's flowing, but that usually isn't where the break is, right?
Right. Typically what we'll do is we'll drill some holes over the top of the main, and then we have some listening devices, and as that sound gets louder, you're getting closer to the actual break itself.
Right. Okay, so for homeowners, and you saw the one woman there who was upset about her laundry. That's a common occurrence when there's a water main break in a neighborhood. What can a homeowner do when something like that happens, or what should they do?
Well, first of all, there has to be a source of heat in the house to protect their plumbing. That's very critical to prevent plumbing issues. For water main breaks in the street, please give us a call, 313-267-8000, or you can use the Improve Detroit app. Don't assume that somebody else has already called it in. I can't tell you, 20, 30 times a day, we get an issue from either the police or fire department, and nobody has called it in to us yet. Oh. And people are wondering why no one's showing up. Well, you gotta let us know.
You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
Right? I do want to talk some numbers here. A statewide report shows, we can put up the information there, that in 2023, the 5,800 miles of drinking water lines, about 66% were in good condition, 17% were in poor or very poor condition. Now, this is state numbers, so it could change a little bit here locally. We also, though, found some data from February of 2019. That's important because that's when we were seeing extremely cold temperatures like we're seeing right now again. Those numbers, there were 232 water main breaks. The usual average for the month is 165. That's, though, statewide. So when we look at 51 just in a day, in one day yesterday in the city of Detroit, we're obviously we're trending in a higher direction. So the infrastructure, I think, is the larger conversation here. I know you talked about how brand new pipes can still freeze with temperatures like this, but the infrastructure, how do we address that? Which I know you could probably talk about for 6 hours.
I could. Our capital investment is about $100 million a year for the Detroit water and sewage water assets.
That probably doesn't touch it, does it?
It could be a lot more. But we have a comprehensive asset management program where we're going neighborhood by neighborhood, doing comprehensive inspection and assessment, acoustical leak detection, gathering all kinds of data, and we replace those mains that need it most to lower the overall risk. And frankly, I think that it's bearing fruit because I've been here since 2007, and in 2009, the number of breaks was significantly higher, a factor of 10. So we're looking at the data to make sure that we're picking the right ones, but I think it is having a positive effect in lowering the number of breaks overall.
Can you estimate how many lines need to be replaced or repaired at this point?
You know, the average age of our water assets is 95 years old. Some of the older stuff is actually very robust. There's a transmission main that was installed in 1854 that's still in service.
Really?
And it hasn't broke, ever. So they used to make them very thick and very robust. It's actually the stuff that was installed in 1922 and afterwards that actually the quality went down and we're having more failure rates. So we look at all of that data as part of our asset management program when we're selecting mains to replace.
Gotcha. So we're thinking 30–40% of the system it needs to be repaired?
We've probably replaced about 30% already. Okay. If we could get another 30% out of the way, I think it would have a significant positive benefit.
Gotcha. My last question for you, in terms of preventing breaks like we're seeing yesterday, and I'm sure probably today, there really is nothing that can be done, or is there any preventative things?
There's no valves we can turn, pumps we can turn on or off. It's a very passive water distribution system. It's very robust, very redundant. So, you know, luckily people aren't out of water. If somebody is out of water, let us know. That's our highest priority, getting people back in. But there's nothing that we can physically do to help mitigate other than maintain the system and repair it.
Well, Smalley also said they maintained positive pressure throughout the leak, so there is no boil water advisory. DWSD says they are flushing and cleaning the main to make sure they are following all sanitary precautions. A congresswoman is attacked during a town hall in Minneapolis as tensions continue to rise over the shooting of Alex Preddy by a federal agent. We have the new video from overnight and the latest in the investigation coming up next. A concerning scene overnight when a man rushed a Minnesota congresswoman at a town hall over the shooting death of Alex Preddy. It happened after President Trump said he wants to see a full investigation into that shooting by a Border Patrol agent in Minneapolis. Alice Barr is in Washington with the very latest.
Hi there. The latest developments in Minneapolis come as the White House has been trying to lower the temperature, changing up leadership on the ground, and taking steps toward working with state and local officials to restore order.
And DHS Secretary.
In a new sign of the boiling tensions in Minneapolis, Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar confronted at a town hall overnight by a man who tried to spray her with something before being dragged out and arrested.
We're going to keep talking.
Omar, a frequent target of criticism from President Trump, including last night, hours before the incident.
We're letting some great people come in. They have to show that they can love our country. They have to be proud. Not like Ilhan Omar.
Omar has pushed back before, saying she has an unwavering love for America. Right before the confrontation, she called for the resignation of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, part of a growing chorus from both sides of the aisle in the wake of 2 deadly shootings in Minneapolis by federal law enforcement in 3 weeks.
I've lost confidence in her. I had great hopes for her in the department, and I've been disappointed.
President Trump standing by Noem.
I think she's doing a very good job. The border is totally secure.
That as the president backed a full investigation into 37-year-old ICU nurse Alex Preddy's fatal shooting, while asked if he agreed with some of his administration officials casting Preddy as a domestic terrorist in the early stages.
I haven't heard that, but certainly he shouldn't have been carrying a gun.
Local officials say Preddy was legally carrying his gun, and new details from a preliminary internal Customs and Border Protection review NBC News obtained note that in the struggle, 2 officers fired their weapons 5 seconds after an agent yelled that Preddy had a gun, and that one of the agents then said he had Preddy's gun after the shots were fired. That report does not say that Preddy attacked officers or was brandishing a gun, as Homeland Security Secretary Noem initially claimed. At least 162 House Democrats are now backing an effort to impeach Noem, while the battle over funding her department could lead to a partial government shutdown at the end of this week. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
All right, in Sterling Heights, Mayor Michael Taylor wants to limit involvement with ICE and federal agents. This comes after a traffic stop earlier in the month when a driver gave officers a foreign ID. Officers then discovered Border Patrol had a warrant for that driver's arrest. And then they asked the 3 passengers for their ID, which the mayor says was not legal.
There was a passenger in that truck who was asked for his ID. He didn't have to give it over. He didn't know that, but he didn't have to give it over. He gave the officer his ID. That directly led to him being apprehended by Border Patrol. He's already been deported, and he leaves a wife and a 2-year-old here at home in the United States. So that's heartbreaking to me. And had the guy just known that, even though he's not a citizen, he had constitutional rights, had he known that, or if our officers informed him of his constitutional rights, he would be here with his family.
Now, another city councilman disagrees and says he wants the city to continue their partnership with federal agencies like the FBI or DEA, saying it keeps the community safe. The city says Sterling Heights police are not involved with immigration enforcement and are focused on crime impacting that community. If you can't believe it, even colder air expected later this week in Metro Detroit. Ashley is going to break down all of that and why you might have some school closings on Friday. And we're going to go to Nashville, where hundreds of thousands of people are without power after this week's winter storm. Welcome back. Much of the country is still dealing with the aftermath of the extreme winter weather we experienced this week. A live look over Nashville right now, where an ice storm has left hundreds of thousands of people with damage from the power storm. And the ice and cold was most significant in a swath stretching from Tennessee to East Texas. Obviously not Tennessee right there. Ivan Rodriguez is in Nashville with the latest on the power recovery efforts. The other issue there, obviously, is because of the hundreds of thousands without power, that they aren't normally used to things like this. They don't have the infrastructure nor the resources to fix the power in a timely fashion.
Cold temperatures are continuing in Nashville, and it's creating another hurdle for crews working to restore power. More than 100,000 customers still don't have electricity, and officials say power restoration could take several more days. Around 100 million people are under cold alerts for frigid temperatures that will stick around for days. More record lows are expected in the south and east through at least this weekend.
We could be looking at a while before a lot of people see power, even potentially into next week. And with the weather right now, that's a concern.
In Lafayette County, Mississippi, a majority of customers are still without power. Crews there are facing challenges with the cold weather and debris from trees.
Due to the impact of the trees falling, power lines snapping, the roadways are very impacted from that, and that just delays the linemen being able to get to those areas because we've got to get all that debris cleared out.
The governor of Mississippi deployed about 500 National Guard members to assist with debris cleanup and traffic control. Still, it takes time. A similar obstacle faced by crews in other southern states like Tennessee.
We've already had a few scenarios where lines have been restored on one stretch of a roadway, and just around the block, another line will come down as a new branch falls.
Over 30 storm and cold-related deaths were reported across several states, including Tennessee and Mississippi. The main cause of death has been hypothermia. In Nashville, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
All right, taking a live look over downtown Detroit right now, thanks to our friends over in Windsor. As Ashley has been saying all morning long, the frigid temperatures are here to stay for a while, but Friday is the day we should really be concerned with. Hey, Ash.
Now, forewarned weather with ExactTrack 4D.
Well, let's go ahead and get to your weather story, as we could be picking up about a dusting to a half of an inch today when it comes to a few flurries in the forecast. But even though we're out of the dangerous cold for today, don't get me wrong, it's still bitterly cold. We have the possibility of the dangerous cold making a pretty quick comeback with wind chill readings. It'll be about 15 below zero overnight tonight, and maybe even colder than 20 below zero heading into Friday morning. In fact, air temperatures fall below zero come Friday morning, not even factoring in the wind. So we can definitively say we'll be rounding out the month of January with more blue on the calendar here and wrapping up the month with more below average days than anything else. So it's been a really cold January and snowy as well. And we'll pick up a few more flurries this afternoon. A few lake effect snow bands could bring a quick burst of snow, very light minor accumulations, but very much like yesterday, you get a few breaks in the clouds and you think, hey, the sun's starting to peek out, and then boom, you get some of that snow, creates a few slick spots, and then it quickly fizzles out. And it'll be overall a colder day today than yesterday, air temperature wise. So a quick look at the snow chances as we head throughout the afternoon, 3, 4 o'clock especially. You have those scattered little flurries draping the area, fizzles out by the evening, and we do start to peel back some of those clouds. But the headline over the next couple of days will continue to be the bitter cold. By tomorrow morning, not factoring in winds, 1 below zero, air temperatures falling to 7 below zero Friday. Friday is the coldest day of the week, and I think that brings you the higher chances of school closings because those wind chills will be also factor in the mix. And then 5 below zero without a wind chill comes Saturday morning. So starting to climb out of it next week. But as we zip through your wind chill forecast this afternoon, some areas might get in the low single digits for those feels like temperatures at best, but the air temperature will be colder than what it was yesterday. Now, wind chill forecast by tomorrow morning, 15, 20 to 20 below zero, and we could be anywhere from 15 to 25 below zero in spots come Friday morning and staying sub-zero in the afternoon. So with these type of temperatures, and they only really have to be at or below 20 degrees, but we're talking well below that threshold, we have the threat for frozen pipes. Hopefully you haven't dealt with this yet, but now if you haven't done any precautions, now's the time to be doing this because it's a household hazard as that cold air can cause the pipes and the exterior walls to freeze so that water expands when frozen and the pipes burst. So you want to make sure that you are opening up your kitchen and bathroom cabinets. Some more tips for you. Consider some insulation materials for those exposed walls. But if you can't do that, you want to make sure that you are letting cold water drip through your faucets. And also, if you're going on vacation, don't leave your heat lower than 55 degrees because that will also lead to just those pipes freezing a lot quicker. Tracking the cold over the next 3 days, that Arctic air moves into the Midwest and the Northeast today. Extreme cold continues for the northern tier of the U.S. for tomorrow. That polar vortex starts to weaken a bit in the Northeast on Friday, but not for us across the Great Lakes. breaks, as that's our coldest day of the week. But I do want to draw your attention down south, because maybe you have some loved ones that are snowbirds. Well, they're dealing with freezing temperatures as well. From Texas to Florida, today and tomorrow, freezing temps that could lead to some iguanas falling from the trees. Otherwise, this weekend, if you're traveling to the eastern seaboard, we do have a close eye on a potential winter storm that could bring some accumulating snow from the Carolinas up into the New England region. Here close to home, forewarned weather alert Friday due to the extreme cold, but we're back in the 20s going into next week.
All right, Ash, thank you so much. Saffron might be soon spicing up more than your risotto. It was once prized as much as gold, and it was sprinkled in royal feast. Now, this ancient spice is turning up in capsules and gummies, promising to boost your mood, help with weight management, and much more. Our Dr. Frank McGee went digging to see if the saffron trend is all hype or real help.
I'm fond of saying if something has an effect, it has a side effect. Turning that statement around, if something has a side effect, it probably has an effect. And saffron in higher doses is considered to have many side effects, which raises the logical question, could it have a beneficial effect?
So saffron, it's a spice that's been used for thousands of years, for cooking. And being an Indian, we use it a lot in our own kitchen with, tea and desserts. And I also know that it's very commonly used in the Middle Eastern culture.
But these days, it's not just hiding in your tea or desserts. It's popping up all over social media as a happy pill, in capsules and gummies. So is this colorful spice really a mood booster or just the latest trend? According to Dr. Mansi Chow, a Henry Ford Health psychiatrist, it may have a role in treating certain ailments.
There's some studies that have shown that saffron can help with mild to moderate depression. It can help with anxiety. It's been shown to improve neurochemicals like serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. It's been shown to act at what we call GABA receptors to calm down. These are some postulated mechanisms along with the anti-inflammatory and antioxidatives. Chronic inflammation can trigger mental health conditions. So it's been postulated that it can help with those conditions.
And there have been some small preliminary studies pointing toward a benefit.
There have been studies showing that it can help with memory and concentration. So, some reports on maybe it can help with patients who have Alzheimer's disease or ADHD.
Unfortunately, the science isn't fully developed, and there is a great deal we don't know.
In studies, they have, seen that doses between 30 to 200 milligrams have been used, but above 5 grams, it's been shown to cause toxicity, so people can start having headaches, dizziness, and those kind of side effects. And beyond 20 grams, it can be fatal.
Plus, there's an important issue specifically regarding the purity of saffron supplements.
Saffron is really expensive, and that's actually a problem because over the years, there's a lot of additives that have been added to it, a lot of fillers and other compounds. And if it's adulterated with, other substances, and if somebody's already taking medications, that could interact very dangerously with, medications. It can cause some unknown side effects. We don't know what compounds it's contaminated with. So that could be a big problem.
And finally, she cautions not to take the risk lightly.
So I would say if somebody wants to try saffron, talk to your doctor to make sure that, is it safe? And a lot of times they've seen interactions with blood thinners. It can increase the risk of bleeding with antihypertensive medications. So I would not self-medicate with saffron.
The bottom line is, while there may be benefit to using saffron for medicinal purposes, we just don't have enough information to reliably guide that use. Now, if you want to try it, just look at the label of the product that you're using so that you don't take too much.
All right, Doc, thank you. So much more coming up throughout the day here on Local 4. Kim is here from Live the D. She left Tati behind upstairs, I think.
Yeah,
She's
just me today. No, Tati will be here for the show,
Okay.
but she's got a little car trouble. She will be here in a minute. I know, but it's like,
Is it too cold for her car?
Well, that might be the situation. Speaking of too cold, who is sick of these cold temperatures?
All
of us, right?
Right.
I am so excited because today on Live in the D, we are showing you how you can teach your little one to ski or snowboard and you don't have to deal with the elements. Yeah, Look at that. Look at that. Look at his face.
This is like a simulator?
It is an indoor ski school.
Really?
Yes.
Where is this at?
It's in Livonia.
Okay.
And we have a very special guest who tried it out for the first time. Very special.
You.
My son.
He's like this big.
I know, he's 2, so it's for kids. They also do private lessons for adults too, if you're interested.
Okay.
But yeah, it's called Shredder Livonia. This organization actually started in Colorado. The owner brought it here to Michigan, and it's really taken off. And they're thinking about maybe a second location as well. Yeah, it's so cool. And you know, you have kids. You know how hard it is to put all the gear on.
Oh, it's
have you even
awful.
tried to teach them how to ski or anything like? Exactly.
No, I don't have time to put the layers on them.
Exactly.
And by the time you do, they're this big and they can't move.
They
around
can't
anyway.
move,
No.
and then they want to take it off. They have to go to the bathroom. It's a whole thing. Yes. So that is one thing that we have on the show today. So I'm really excited for that. I was like talking to my mom, like, Mom, Blake's going to be on today. And then, are you into Broadway?
A little bit, yeah.
What's your favorite Broadway show?
Ooh, Les Mis.
Ooh, I would not expect that from you.
Okay.
That's a good one.
You got 7 seconds, go.
Oh, we exercise class Broadway style. Yes.
Live in the D?
Yes.